This is more than 300 pages of documents we obtained through a public records request. This is all of former Detective Daniel Seaman's personnel file and his training records. Tonight, the question still remains why. What would lead a son to kill his parents? Yesterday, Robert and Jolene Price were shot and killed just inside this home. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office still investigating the motive. Anything to say about how your dog died? How do you explain how your dog ended up in a dumpster? Please explain to us what happened to your dog. Do you have anything to say about the charges against you? Were you shocked that they raised the charges to first-degree murder? Do you feel that accurately conveys what happened? Right now, anyone who gets in a car wreck in Tucson, it could be a long road to getting coverage from your insurance company, and it all has to do with issues here within the Tucson Police Department's Records Division.
What did he have to say or not say, Chorus?
Yeah, he really had nothing to say. Christopher Schultes was able to walk himself into court today with his attorney by his side. He was able to walk himself right out of court without any attempt from prosecutors to amend his conditions of release.
New information today on a News 4 Tucson investigation into the death of a puppy found dead in an apartment complex dumpster on Tucson's south side. The dog's owner appearing in Tucson City Court today, facing misdemeanor charges for animal cruelty. And our chief investigative reporter, Chorus Nylander, was there and joins us live from downtown with what happened today. Chorus.
Monica, the charges Samaya Jones is facing are relatively minor, and not for her dog being found dead, but as part of an animal abuse investigation that happened just before. And that's what has so many people and many animal advocates upset. Many were out here today calling for more serious charges. Hello, Sean. This is the interim complaint filed by the Pima County Attorney's Office detailing a violent domestic dispute. Miraculously, nobody was injured in all this, but a CBP civilian employee is behind bars facing some serious charges. You can see these evidence markers here left behind by police showing 9 bullet holes in this wall just across the cul-de-sac from where the suspect lives, showing just how dangerous this situation was for neighbors. Well, just take a look at these pink evidence markers here along the street. These are numbers. Residents here tell me this was all left over from the police where they were identifying rounds left behind here at the scene. I counted over 70 of them here in front of this home, and the scene continues well down the street here. This was a frightening situation, not how residents in this area expected to start their Thanksgiving. There was a group of 48 people allowed to sit on stage behind Trump throughout the event. They were split into 2 groups on each side of the stage. One side seemed to walk away without any issues, but multiple people seated near each other on the other side tell me that they had to go to the emergency room after they left the event. Here tonight, for the first time, the Trump campaign is confirming that they're investigating this situation. The way the app works is similar to Airbnb. Ordinary folks like you and me can list our personal vehicles for rent, go meet a stranger, hand over the keys for a daily rate, but several people say they were taken for a wild ride they didn't sign up for. Angelique, it took around 8 months for this criminal investigation to lead to charges. It only took a couple of days for Elizabeth Gutfar to accept a plea agreement. Line by line, she and the federal judge went through all the accusations against her brought by prosecutors. She admitted everything. We've been following this Channel 3 investigation now for 2 years. Tonight we have our hands on these new documents saying the sheriff not only knew about this, but was actually involved. I asked the tough questions, and this is what the sheriff had to say. Sue, in today's world, cameras are everywhere, from your cell phone to just about any business and at your front door. For police, knowing where those cameras are can help with many investigations. With just the touch of a button, a homeowner could be practically anywhere and see who is at their door and what they're doing, and that could help timing for law enforcement. Just another sign of the constant violence we've been seeing as of late, such as yesterday we showed you that press conference from Escambia County Sheriff David Morgan, who at that point confirmed things are even as serious as contract killings, bounties put on people's heads, lives with price tags. For our interview with Captain Kinsella, we were allowed 5 questions we had to submit before our interview. The Navy making it very clear he would not answer questions surrounding the investigation into the mass shooting. Well, this family and community are undoubtedly hurting tonight, grieving for this man's death and what the sheriff's office says was a birthday surprise gone so horribly wrong. for the sheriff and the angle of this coming out as some sort of witchcraft murder, that really scared people and I think shocked people. It was clearly a sadistic killing. How could somebody do this? How could a human being do a crime like this?
Yes, it's one of the largest betrayals of public trust in Santa Cruz County history and is now nearing a conclusion.
The former Santa Cruz County treasurer charged with 3 felonies after allegedly stealing nearly $40 million taxpayer dollars has admitted to it all, accepting a plea from prosecutors this morning.
News 4 Tucson's chief investigative reporter Chorus Nylander has been covering this case from the very beginning and was in that courtroom earlier today, and he joins us live just outside of the federal courthouse here in Tucson with more. Chorus.
Angelique, it took around 8 months for this criminal investigation to lead to charges. It only took a couple of days for Elizabeth Gutfar to accept a plea agreement. Line by line, she and the federal judge went through all the accusations against her brought by prosecutors. She admitted everything. Ms. Gutfar, anything you'd like to say about your guilty plea? Anything you'd like to say to the residents of Santa Cruz County? Disgraced former Santa Cruz County Treasurer Elizabeth Gutfar had nothing to say Thursday morning after pleading guilty to embezzlement, money laundering, and tax evasion in federal court. Gutfar admitted to stealing over $38 million from taxpayers while serving as treasurer over the course of a decade, buying luxurious real estate, cars, and various items for personal gain, with 187 illegitimate wire transfers, using her own companies to launder the money. She admitted to using a subordinate's token to get around the 2-step authentication requirements within the county and presented falsified financial reports. Gutfar's attorney, Joshua Hamilton, sent us a statement saying, quote, Liz Gutfar wants to take responsibility for the harm she has caused to Santa Cruz County. She knows that by pleading guilty and accepting the punishment she will face as a result, she is taking a step in the right direction to be accountable for her actions. Today was just a step, albeit a major one, along the road to redemption, and she will work to remain on that path for the rest of her life. Her actions sent a rift of mistrust across Santa Cruz County government.
The supervisors should have known their responsibilities, should have watched that money and did audits on the treasurer's office. They did nothing.
The 2024 general election saw longtime county leaders like Supervisor Chairman Manny Ruiz voted out. He was in court, grateful to finally hear an admission of guilt.
Well, I'm feeling great. I mean, it kind of exonerates the board. I know that we do everything that we can to protect the integrity of the funds of our community. And she, as the bank of the county, really let the citizens down.
And Gutfar remains out of custody, now awaiting her sentencing date, which has been scheduled for February 6th. As part of this plea agreement, she received no special agreements in terms of saving her any jail time. She could still face the maximum sentence, which with all the charges collectively, she could face over 35 years in prison, as well as some hefty fines and restitution. I imagine her guilty plea will be taken into consideration. All of that is going to be up to the sentencing judge come February 6th. We're live outside the federal courthouse in downtown Tucson. Chorus Nylander, News 4 Tucson.
Today, Christopher Schultes was arraigned after a grand jury indicted him last week and then upgraded the charges. News 4 Tucson's chief investigative reporter, Chorus Nylander, was there and questioned him as he left the court. He joins us now live outside the Pima County Superior Courthouse. And what did he have to say or not say, Chorus?
Yeah, he really had nothing to say. Christopher Schultes was able to walk himself into court today with his attorney by his side. He was able to walk himself right out of court without any attempt from prosecutors to amend his conditions of release after that grand jury indicted him last week, upgrading his charges now to first-degree murder and child abuse.
I request that you enter a plea of not guilty as to both counts. I have reviewed my client's rights with him.
Christopher Schultes is pleading not guilty to the charges of first-degree murder and child abuse after his 2-year-old daughter died after being left in a hot car for 3 hours last month, according to investigators. Schultes was initially charged with second-degree murder and was released from jail without having to pay any bond last month. Investigators have uncovered evidence detailed in this complaint obtained by News 4 Tucson, showing that it wasn't his first time leaving his kids in the car. After the case was presented to a grand jury last week, he was indicted on the enhanced charge of first-degree murder. During Thursday's arraignment, prosecutors made no attempts to change the conditions of his release with the higher charges. Noticeably absent in court was Schultes' wife, Erica, who previously appeared and urged the judge to free her husband.
This was a big mistake, and I think that this doesn't represent him. And I just want the girls to see their father so that I don't have to tell them tonight that they're going to endure another loss.
Were you shocked that they raised the charges of first-degree murder? Do you feel that accurately conveys what happened? I confronted Schultes as he left the courthouse. He had nothing to say as I questioned him about statements made exclusively to News 4 Tucson from his 16-year-old daughter that she was left in the car many times since she was as young as 7. I also asked him about the text messages from his wife stating she's asked him repeatedly to stop leaving their children inside of the car. What were all the text messages with your wife about? It seems she's told you to not leave kids in the car before. Anything you have to say to that? His attorney also made no comments. Is it shocking that Schultes remains out of custody with such significant charges against him? Not quite, according to experienced Pima County criminal attorney Louis Fidel.
It's certainly not unheard of, and it's a decision that each individual judge makes based on the totality of circumstances in that particular case.
He says the judge's main determining factors will be based on the likelihood they'll return to court or are a danger to the community, and also will consider the impact to the defendant's family, like Schultes' wife and other children.
It's a very serious thing to hold someone in jail who has not been convicted of a crime.
And the Pima County Attorney's Office did request a $1 million bond during his initial appearance last month. It was the judge that ignored that request. I reached out to the Pima County Attorney's Office tonight to see why they didn't make any attempt to try and change his conditions of release with these new charges. They sent me a statement reading, quote, "This case is another reminder to the public that we are not allowed to comment on pending prosecutions in our office. We work hard to ensure that every case is handled in a fair and just way." And we're going to keep you updated as this case continues. His next court appearance was scheduled later in September. We're live from the Pima County Superior Courthouse tonight. Chorus Nylander, News 4 Tucson.
New developments this morning in a story our chief investigative reporter Chorus Nylander first broke. He has now obtained a text message from a reptile breeder in Phoenix revealing new information on the disappearance of more than 300 small pets.
Back in August, the animals were sent to Tucson from the San Diego Humane Society. Controversy surfaced when the animals went missing, which led to the firing of the Humane Society's CEO, Steve Farley, and the hiring of an interim replacement. This new discovery may have changed the course of the investigation. Chorus Nylander has more on this News 4 Tucson investigation.
Well, just as the Humane Society was getting ready to wrap up and release its report on their third-party investigation, we were able to obtain new information via a text message that is blowing the case wide open. Now they're having to sit down, review everything closely, and the stakes much higher.
We're utterly heartbroken about this development and the likely outcome of the animals.
It literally brought me to my knees. It was everything we've been worried about.
The Humane Society of Southern Arizona and San Diego Humane Society were both shocked to see this text message exclusively obtained by News 4 Tucson. After HSSA confirmed it had shipped the more than 300 rabbits, hamsters, guinea pigs, and rats to a man named Trevor Jones, whose brother Colton is a known reptile breeder in Mesa, I started calling other reptile breeders in the Phoenix area. One man who doesn't want to be identified told us he was approached by Colton in August to take some small pets off his hands as feeders, but he passed. He showed us this text message coming from Colton Jones' phone number, reading, quote, "Do you have the ability to freeze off a bunch of guinea pigs and or rabbits? I don't have the manpower or labor to be able to do it in time for the show, and it's too much for me." Our source says that show was a reptile show in Pomona, California, a few days later. It was sent August 8th, the day the Jones family received the shipment of pets from HSSA.
I don't think any other word other than heartbroken and devastated captures it.
HSSA's third-party investigator has concluded their investigation, but Garcia says our findings could have an impact.
Obviously, Chorus, there's new information that we just learned, and so that has an effect.
HSSA presented its case to Tucson police, who are now reviewing the evidence to determine if a crime took place. San Diego Humane Society President Dr. Gary Weitzman says this has been devastating for his staff who took care of the small pets for months.
We know these animals have to eat, and it needs to be done in the most humane possible way, and the source can never be from a humane society.
Thank you. I appreciate your work in all this, because I know that some of this came through you.
You unearth information, I understand, that really is important, and I'm really grateful to you for that.
The Humane Society of Southern Arizona says that the report from their third-party investigators should be released in early December. They're encouraging anyone that may have some significant information to step forward and now report it to the Tucson Police Department. We have information on how you can do that over on our website, KVOA.com. Investigating for you, Chorus Nylander, News 4 Tucson.